My biological mother was not actively involved in my upbringing. She entrusted it to my father for the first 2 years of my life, but after he died, my maternal grandparents took over my upbringing. They believed this was what my father would have wanted. They raised me despite my lack of connection to their daughter, my mother, and taught me to remember my loving father. My grandparents were wonderful people. They loved my father and respected him enough to make sure I grew up knowing his love for me. In the last 4 years, I have lost them both. Grandpa passed away 4 years ago when I was 17. Grandma passed away 8 months ago. After their deaths, I inherited a large portion of their estate. My aunts and uncles and my biological mother received a smaller share. She got a token $5. I, on the other hand, received the family home as I continued to live in it with my grandmother and a significant amount of money. After my grandparents died, my aunts and uncles became close to my biological mother again. They met her family, but I was not a part of that process. No desire to get to know this woman and her family arose in my mind. She was never my mother and nothing will change now. A few months ago, she approached me, informing me that she and her family were having a hard time and asking for money. I ignored her request. When I asked my aunts and uncles how she was able to find me, they admitted that they had passed on my information. I expressed my displeasure with their decision. They stated that she was family regardless of my feelings and that I should take an interest in her children as they were my siblings. She has since asked for money again, but I have not responded. Last week, she asked for help again, stating that they needed a place to live. I asked her why I should help when they are just strangers to me. I told her that she should not expect me to care. My in-laws took it violently, claiming she was still my mom. I countered that she was a biological mother, but not a mom in my sense. They insisted that she was still my mom and her children were my siblings and that I should be there for them. They told me that I shouldn't treat them like a monster if I could help them. I replied that if they wished to maintain a relationship with her, they could help themselves. They stated that my question was unpleasant and I did not want to discuss it further. They mentioned that my mother was young when she gave birth to me and I should be able to understand her. She wasn't a teenager. After all, she was 25 years old, but I didn't agree to that. You're not an idiot. I resent it when people resort to the family ties argument to get you to forgive their actions. They will tell you that your siblings are not guilty of anything and your mother is a real hard worker who supports her siblings. I suppose your aunts and uncles, your mother's siblings, might press you and blame you for her problems. She made her choices that led her to her current situation and you don't have to bail her out. You're right. They could have helped her with the inheritance they got too. You're not a monster. Yes, your birth mom and her siblings are like leeches. She's not your mom because you were actually given up for adoption. If you didn't have a significant inheritance, you would never have heard of her. She has no interest in you as a person. She just wants to get something for herself. Tell your relatives to help her with her bills. Yeah, I'm 10 to 1 sure that your mom and her brothers are concerned that you got the biggest chunk of the inheritance and don't want to share. They seem to think your mom waited until your grandparents were gone to put pressure on you. Know they are weak enough to support her and try to take what is rightfully yours. Think about it. Your aunts and uncles stayed out of it while your grandparents were alive. Your mother waited for the inheritance and didn't get it. That's what she cares about. Don't give her a dime. Check all your bills, credit cards, and lines of credit. When you stand your ground, she may decide to take advantage of your funds. She may even try to freeze your credit if she has your social security number. Be cautious and keep an eye on your finances. She is probably very unhappy that you inherited a large chunk and she didn't. Next story. My husband and I had been married for 9 years when it came to light in 2021 that he had been cited for alimony. It turned out that shortly after we were married, my husband had an affair that nearly destroyed our union. However, we decided to seek counseling and I agreed to continue the marriage under certain conditions. My husband had to find a second job so that alimony would not affect our household budget. I absolutely refuse to enter into any relationship with this child. If the husband wants to keep in touch, I don't object, but I don't show any interest myself. Over the past couple of years, my husband has tried to establish a relationship with his child. He recently informed me of difficulties with the child's mother, who will soon be serving an 8-month sentence. The husband expressed his intention to take custody of the child so that she would not move in with her grandparents who live on the other coast. This would prevent the child from changing schools and becoming estranged from friends and parents. After this conversation, I left the house, went to the nearest grocery store, and bought a guide to apartments in our neighborhood, which I returned to my husband. He asked in surprise if I was taking it seriously. I replied that my attitude hadn't changed since we first discussed the topic 3 years ago. He argued that it was unfair given the circumstances. I told him that I am not interested in the circumstances, and if he decides to take the child, I will agree to an amicable divorce, but my opinion will not change. I don't want to take care of another woman's child. You don't understand that the counselor was too skilled at his job. This marriage should have broken up years ago. The baby will always be there. It's better for you to leave. It's better for everyone. You'll find happiness in the long run. Now you seem out of your mind. She doesn't approve of his baby, but the baby is there and that can't change. He still needs to be taken care of. It's better to divorce him. The idea that she won't divorce until he gives up his child is repulsive to me. I would be disgusted to know that the child is suffering. Just get divorced. You said he can have contact with the child as long as it doesn't involve you and the child doesn't live in your house. That worked for 3 years. But with the change in circumstances, she is ready for a divorce. She didn't demand that the child be sent to foster care. She simply told him to find an apartment and leave. In reality, a man who loses a child or a marriage is not an idiot. He is facing the consequences of his actions. It's sad that others suffer because of his actions, but it was inevitable after he decided to have an affair. Now I want to tell a different story. My girlfriend is 24 years old, I'm 25. We broke up about 2 weeks ago. The decision was largely initiated by her, although we both realized that our relationship was not going well. I was saddened, but not surprised, that we ended our union peacefully and decided to remain friends, as sad as that sounds. Shortly after the breakup, we exchanged personal items in our apartments. Our next conversation happened only 2 days ago. She texted me about plans for a trip to the Canary Islands that we had previously planned for this year. The airfare was about $800 each, and renting a place through Airbnb cost about $1,600. We decided that I would pay for the accommodations and she would pay for the tickets. Unfortunately, the tickets were non-refundable and the deadline to get reimbursed for lodging had already passed. I decided to suggest to a friend that we split the cost of the rental and take the trip together. I planned to let my ex know that I would take care of the cost of her ticket so she wouldn't lose money. However, she beat me to it and on Friday offered to pay me back the rental money by deducting the cost of my airfare since she wanted to go there with a friend. I said I was going to travel with a friend too. I would pay for her ticket and go. She agreed, but asked me to pay for both mine and half of her ticket since she wouldn't be able to use it now. She reminded me that she had agreed to buy 2 tickets on the basis that we would both go. I, on the other hand, had agreed to pay for lodging on the same basis. Now that plans have changed, we have to split the cost of the unclaimed ticket equally. Since I will still use the room and my ticket, the only loss is her $800 ticket, and we each have to make up $400 of that amount. I explained to her that I didn't think this was fair. First, the idea to break up came from her, which was the reason we canceled our trip together. Second, she had no impediment to using the ticket. She could have rented a place through Airbnb and traveled there with her friend. I suggested that I could take her friend's seat, allowing her and her friend to fly together. The decision to use the ticket or not was left up to her, as well as any associated costs. She replied that she didn't want to go at the same time as me, and good Airbnb properties for those dates were already booked. We exchanged arguments, and at one point she even threatened to cancel the tickets, even though it was impossible to get a refund. I suggested she do her own thing, cancel the tickets and try to get a refund. I also said I could buy my own ticket and not give her a refund at all. She got angry and stated that she didn't want to talk to me if I was being an idiot and suggested we postpone the conversation until I grew up. At this point, our friends have split into 2 camps. Most think I should at least pay for my ticket if she doesn't cancel. Some argue that I should pay for half of her ticket as well. I, on the other hand, am firmly of the opinion that I will not pay for half of her ticket. You're not an idiot. At this point, you refrain from further conversation with her about the trip. You've already pointed out that the original agreement was supposed to be she buys the tickets and you book the airman. That agreement has not been broken. Let her keep her ticket and buy yourself and your friend other tickets. You might find better deals closer to your travel date. I don't understand why you have to pay for half of her ticket. It seems like she just wants her money back by using manipulative tactics. She is trying to create the image that everyone around her is obligated to reimburse her. Without discussion, she's hoping you'll just give in. Your ex can book lodging on her own and use her airfare. That's not your problem. I don't agree with the cost-sharing suggestion. In this situation, she keeps the tickets, which usually can't be transferred to another person, while you control the air reservation, which is much easier to rebook. You understand her arguments about the difference in how airlines and airm work. You both wanted to leverage the trip by bringing other people along. Since you control the lodging reservation, you were in a better position. Now she has to look for new accommodations and her options are limited. Talking about how your separation has no impact shows that you are not looking at the issue objectively. Her suggestion that you split the losses may sound objectively fair, but it's not. My next story. I've been dating a girl I'll call Sally for about 6 months now. The relationship is going great. Sally has an extraordinary grace, tenderness, and charm. She shows care like no one else I have ever met. As I began to get to know her, I noticed her innocence. Sally had trouble picking up on innuendo and didn't understand subtle jokes. In addition, she never smoked, drank alcohol, or had tattoos. Sally didn't go to bars or parties, and she never got in trouble at school or anywhere else. I thought that was interesting, especially since I had managed to get her interested. I drink occasionally myself, and I have piercings and tattoos. Everything was going great until a few weeks ago when I met her parents. Sally suggested I meet them and I gladly agreed, thinking they would be as nice as their daughter. When we met, they were initially very polite, asking me various questions. However, after dinner, their attitude changed. They asked to speak to me privately and frankly expressed that they did not like me and should leave their daughter alone. I was stunned. When I tried to find out the reason, they pointed to my tattoos and piercings as a sign of bad influence. I only have a few ear piercings and tattoos on my neck, right arm, and shoulder. Some of them they hadn't even seen. I explained that I treat their daughter with the utmost respect, and what I do with my body is my personal choice and does not reflect my influence on their daughter. They interrogated me by asking a lot of questions. It was like a test that was so overwhelming that they took a few minutes to criticize my like choices. The parents expressed their desire for me to stay away from their daughter. I objected, arguing that I had no plans to break up with her. I tried to see if there was anything I could do to change their opinion of me, but they continued to criticize me. Eventually, the situation became awkward. All three of us were silent. We went back to where she was waiting for us, and they started acting friendly again. I chose to remain silent for the rest of the evening because of the discomfort I had created. Sally noticed my malaise and expressed concern. I told her I was just tired. Now, I don't know if I should tell Sally about what her parents told me. It's hard for me to keep it from her. Part of me wants to tell the truth, but another part of me thinks it's better to keep the peace. I'm hoping that in time I can win her parents' favor. Her parents asked you to keep it a secret. In my opinion, it's their family business. They strive to keep the princess safe and protect her from those who would seek to tarnish her. You're playing by the rules they set. It seems they didn't just rebuke you and keep silent out of embarrassment. They manipulated you. My advice is to not participate in their games. It's better to tell the truth to this girl. You're not making things worse for her parents. They are actively trying to isolate their daughter. You are most likely not the first or the last person they have done this to. There's a reason your girlfriend is so naive. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not a good thing either. Her parents have created a tight cocoon around her to keep her pure and innocent, even at 21. She's naive and innocent. Tell her how my mom spent decades driving away anyone who showed interest in me. She wanted me home and waiting for her. She was willing to ruin my life for recognition. She tried to get me fired from my job. My ex threw my mom's emails in my face during an argument. What she said was horrible. I would have run away too. I have no idea what she did. I'm in my 50s, and it's only in the last 3 years that I've been in a long-term relationship because the witch finally died. Even if you're not ready, please tell her.